Every FIFA World Cup creates a flood of marketing, but only a few campaigns are documented well enough to study properly. So instead of asking which ads were the prettiest, I wanted to ask a better question. Which FIFA or World Cup campaigns produce the clearest publicly reported results? Because that's where the real lessons are. In this video, I want to break down the most famous FIFA campaigns with publicly reported outcomes. These are the ones where we can actually see the impact. World Cup or FIFA marketing is one of the most expensive attention games in the world. But for most brands, the return is hard to isolate. And that's why so much of the conversation stays fuzzy. If a campaign helped drive revenue, sales, engagement, or brand lift, that matters. If it only looked good, that matters less. Let's start with one of the most famous World Cup campaigns ever, Nike's Write the Future. This was the 2010 Nike football film that turned the World Cup into a cinematic event. This worked because it did not feel like a normal World Cup ad. It felt like a football fantasy film built around the emotional stakes of the tournament. The campaign imagined how one moment could change a player's legacy, which made it instantly compelling for fans who already think about football in dramatic, mythic terms. A big reason it landed is that it understood the audience mindset. World Cup viewers are not just watching matches, they are watching history being made. So a campaign about consequence, pressure, and legacy naturally fits the moment. That made the film feel bigger than advertising and closer to football culture itself. It also worked because the execution was incredibly cinematic. The pacing, star power, and scale gave people something worth talking about even before they understood the marketing objective. The ad earned attention by being entertainment first and branding second. People responded to it because it created a conversation about what-if scenarios. Fans love debating football moments, and this campaign gave them a huge dramatic version of that. It was not just here's Nike, it was here's the emotional reality of the World Cup if everything went right or wrong in a single second. Another reason this campaign stood out is that it captured both optimism and pressure. That combination made it feel human. Football fans know that a great tournament can make heroes, and the film leaned into that extremely well. This campaign generated 1.9 billion Facebook impressions, more than 40 million online video views, and it became one of the most shared brand campaigns of its year. That matters because it showed what global football marketing looked like when one film could still dominate attention. The ad was the strategy. The film had to do everything, and Nike just nailed it. If Write the Future was the hero film era, Risk Everything was the transition. This 2014 Nike campaign was explicitly built as a social and mobile campaign, not just a TV spot. This campaign worked because it evolved the same emotional logic into a more modern distribution model. It was still cinematic, but now it was built for social sharing, mobile viewing, and broader online conversation. That shift mattered because by 2014, people were no longer just consuming ads, they were reacting to them in real time. What made it effective was that it did not stop at one big film. It extended into a broader social and content system, which meant the idea could travel beyond the original launch. That gave it more legs and made it feel alive during the tournament instead of existing as a one-time brand moment. The campaign also tapped into the psychology of football fans in a very smart way. The World Cup is about risk at every level. Risk in attacking, risk in defending, risk in selection, and risk in tournament legacy. So a campaign built around the idea of risk everything felt native to the tournament, not imposed on it. People responded because it matched the emotional temperature of the event. The World Cup is full of tension, momentum swings, and sudden changes in fortune, and the campaign mirrored that energy. That's why this campaign was not just watched, it got discussed. The difference from the earlier era is important here. Right the Future was a big hero film play, and Risk Everything was the start of the system play. It showed that brands could still make something huge and cinematic, but now they also had to think about distribution, participation, and amplification. That's what makes it interesting for marketers. It was not just a good ad, it was a sign that the old model was changing. The reported results were even more striking. $2.3 billion in revenue for the brand, 21% year-over-year growth, 25% increase in footwear sales across key football markets, and more than 400 million digital video views. And you know what? More than 23 million people engaged with this campaign through likes, shares, retweets, and comments. That is one of the clearest examples of a World Cup campaign tied to actual business performance. A great film can win attention, but a great system can win outcomes. Together, these campaigns show the evolution of World Cup marketing better than almost anything else. One represents the era where the ad itself carried the strategy, and the other showed the shift towards campaign that needed social, content, and interaction to fully work. That makes them useful not just as examples of good creative, but as examples of changing media behavior. They help explain why the best World Cup marketing stopped being about one perfect ad and started becoming about how an idea moves. It is also worth zooming out. The World Cup itself is a massive commercial engine. FIFA's reporting shows that the organization generated more than $5.7 billion in revenue between 2019 and 2022. Broader reporting on the Qatar World Cup cycle puts the total revenue close to around $7.5 billion. That does not tell you the ROAS of a specific campaign, but it does show the scale of the ecosystem sponsors are buying into. FIFA marketing is not small bet marketing. It is a huge stage marketing. Here is the important caveat. Exact ROAS is rarely made public for FIFA sponsor campaigns. That's because the return is usually spread across your brand lift, sales, media exposure, long-term equity, retail performance, and category dominance. So when you see public results, they're usually framed as revenue lift, impressions, engagement, or campaign reach. That's still useful. In many cases, it's the best available proof. There are three big lessons here. A World Cup campaign needs more than a good film. It needs a system that can carry the idea across formats. The best campaigns are measurable in more than one way. They create both attention and business impact. And lastly, if a campaign cannot be shared, extended, and reused, it probably is not going to add up. And that's the real difference between a one-time ad and a World Cup campaign that actually works. The most successful FIFA campaigns were not just visible, they were built to travel. Write the Future traveled through culture, and Risk Everything traveled through social and mobile. And the next wave of World Cup marketing will travel through creator ecosystems, short form video, and real time fan content. That is the evolution. So if you want to understand which World Cup campaigns actually work, do not just ask what looked cool. Think about what did it produce, what did it move, and what did it prove. The best documented FIFA campaigns are the ones that left behind evidence. And evidence is what makes the strategy worth studying.